This conference will now be recorded.
Calling to order the October 30th Auburn Board of Selectmen meeting. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Board of Selectmen is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting laws to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely or by telephone, dial 1-408-650-3123 with access code 235-235-861. Or the public can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com/join/235-235-861. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first agenda item is to go into executive session in accordance with MGL Chapter 30, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and then to come out of executive session and reconvene in open session. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Oh, it's a roll call vote. Mr. Crane?
Yes.
Ms. Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Chambers?
Yes.
And the chair is a yes as well. I declare that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and that the board will reconvene in open session following the executive session. Okay. Okay, we are reconvening open session to start the joint meeting with the Library Board of Trustees. I would just like to make a reminder that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is there anybody in the audience that is also recording? Seeing none, we will move along. So Ms. DeCoursey, did you want to open your meeting?
Thank you very much, I would. My name is Mary DeCoursey. I'm the chair of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees. I'm calling our meeting to order at 6:30 on Monday, October 30th, 2023. The agenda of this meeting was posted on the Auburn Town website and on, actually on Friday, to think about the day now, October 27th, 2023. Permit me to confirm that members of our body and persons anticipated on our agenda are present this evening. Matt Toth.
Present.
Erica Breesacker. Present. Vera Kareen.
Present.
Steve Redding.
Present.
And of course, I am present. Thank you very much.
Sure. So we have two applicants tonight. Are we taking separately, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have a preference who we start with?
Nope, I do not.
Okay. So we'll go in alphabetical order and start with Lindsay Baker. Hi.
Hi,
How are
Lindsay.
you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Where do I go?
The podium.
At the podium.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight and applying to be a member of our board. Do you mind if we start with questions?
Go right ahead.
So I'm going to start with Mr. Redding, Steve Redding, if you would start, and I will be the last person to ask a question on this interview.
Well, my question is a typical starting interview question. Why do you want to join the board?
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking about this. So I have two reasons. One, kind of a professional connection, and then another, a personal. So professionally, I've spent most of my career, all of my career now, with a nonprofit that is focused on access to finance, access to training in mid-size agricultural businesses, which may seem a little outside of the library universe, but the whole mission is to drive improvement, connection to community building through those two channels. And I think that the library, to me, especially particularly the Auburn Library, has been access to community. My husband and I moved to town in 2019, early 2020, obviously the pandemic hit. We had our little boy in July 2020. And the library ended up being one of the very first public places we ever took him to in his whole life. And so he really adores the library in town specifically. And it was really the first entry point for us too, to feel a real connection to Auburn. So I feel very connected to the library. And I would hope that the skills I can bring from my nonprofit experience and my professional background in process policy development would be of service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question yet, I'm still thinking.
Okay, Matt Toth?
You kind of answered the question I was interested in. You know, how do you see the library as part of the community? I view it as probably the most democratic institution that you have, since everybody has access to everything. I'm just wondering how you thought about that.
Yeah, I think that the library, I think access to information, access to resources, access to people that you feel like you can trust when you walk in to help you find what you're looking for is so critical, especially today when there is so much information out on the internet, and knowing that you can go to a place where you can trust the people to help connect you with the truth and real information, I think is critical. But I also think that the additional services that a library provides are just critical. Many years ago, I volunteered through a public library teaching ESL. I think that there are just so many things. Even as a kid, my first access to a computer outside of school was at the library. When parents didn't have enough money to buy us a home computer. So I think that there's so many services that a library can provide that can really build an identity of a community too. And I think Auburn is a small town, and I didn't have a lot of opportunity to feel real connected to the community, but the library is always a great gateway for that. So I don't know, I think the library is critical. I think it's so important.
To ask you then how much you've used the library, because you've already been.
We're there like twice a week. My son, on his 3rd birthday, we went and got his library card. So we've been there often.
Here?
How do you see the role of the Library Board of Trustees in relation to the library or the library director? How do you see that in relationship, or how would you like to see it?
Yeah, so I watched the few most recent meetings, and I think I guess some of it is a question back to you guys around just like what have been your priorities and what are the most critical priorities right now facing the board and the library itself. But I think that the policy development is critical, and making sure that that's clear and understandable because it's both a public place, but there's also, a need to balance that. I think you guys have had some conversations about, union and staffing, and there's so much complexity to it. So I would think and imagine that you're all bringing really diverse perspectives to how we run the organization, how we run, the library. And I think I will admit that I had a very hard time finding the bylaws for this committee. And I think that maybe there's something there that could be improved around just access to information about the committee and what your priorities are. I think you clearly all bring a lot of passion to the table around driving the library's development and growth. And I personally hope to see it grow in the future because, we're not planning on leaving town anytime soon. And I think there's a lot more the library could be offering, so.
Erica? What do you see as your potential role on the Board of Trustees? What sort of things in particular do you want to bring?
Yeah, so my job has evolved at this nonprofit, but has always been really focused on process definition, policy development. We are a financial institution first and foremost, so a level of detail orientation around policy, doing research, understanding best practices, but then balancing that with collaboration with parties involved or parties impacted by a policy. I think that struck me as, the last meeting, I saw the friends of the library came and said, actually, can we offer? So that back and forth is something I do a lot at work, be it about implementation of a new system. I have some technology experience. And yeah, but I think that building and communicating and, tying things together into a clear, concise policy is something I think seems like is really topical right now.
Thank you. I love that you said driving the library's development and growth. My question is always about inclusion. We use the term diversity, equity, inclusion, but inclusion in terms of our committee, what we really want is input from the community. We want to make sure that we are, as you said, I love that development and growth, that we're shaping our work around the need sets, multiple need sets in the community. Did I touch it? Sorry about that. That was not an alien. I think somebody had themselves unmuted. So the question that I have, we're very interested in getting input from the community and making sure we're meeting the needs of our patrons. Can you talk a little bit about maybe an idea or ideas that you would have to be able to give a voice to our community so that we would know best how to develop?
I think improving the website would go a really far way in having easier, more ready access to know what events are being offered and what's coming up. Find ourselves sometimes down a rabbit hole trying to find the most up-to-date information about what's happening and what's going on around town. I think that's a really big one for me. I think my husband and I are both right, our phone is where we get all of our information, and the town's website, no offense to whomever develops it, but I think it's lacking in accessibility. So I think that to me, that would be a really great opportunity to build some of that engagement, especially as younger families are moving to town. We all access information online now.
So opening up our communications. Thank you for that advice. I appreciate you. Can I turn it over to the board?
Great, thank you. Do any board members have questions?
I'll kick us off. First, let me thank you for volunteering and your time for the town. So I have two questions that are sort of joined together and kind of follow up on what Chair DeCoursey just said. I'd like to hear, based on your experience as a parent and as a resident, what does our library do correctly and well, and what can they do better?
So I confess most of my time has been spent in the children's room, and I think it's wonderful. It has toys that have made my son feel really excited about going, but then he stays to look for the books that we're going to read at bedtime, right? And so I think that there's something there. I love the seasonal displays, and it's great. I think I take most advantage myself of actually audiobooks. That's the best way that I feel like I can actually get reading done lately. Can listen while he's falling asleep at night. So the connection to some of those online resources has been really, really great for me to get back into reading books and enjoying the resources. I mean, I think some of the external linkages to museums and the Passes program is fantastic. We used to take advantage of that a lot when we lived in Somerville as well, and I think it's a great way to learn more about the different places and small museums and things, so there's a community connection there. I think aesthetically, the library is maybe lacking a little bit, right? I mean, it's a nice, it's welcoming, but it's obviously gotten a little dated. And so I think to me, that's one area. It might be more engaging if there was a little more, a little something more to it. But yeah, I don't know, I'm gonna leave it there. I think those are my main thoughts about the library.
Thank you. Thank you.
My only question is, do you have any time constraints that would affect your attendance at the scheduled meetings or any additional meetings?
Yeah, so I work full time. I have a 3-year-old, so I'm definitely busy. I don't have a lot of outside commitments beyond that. I've been really looking for a way to feel a little more engaged and connected in Auburn, and so this seemed like a good opportunity. I'm also on the Economic Development Committee. It meets pretty infrequently and has a pretty low kind of external, demand on my time. And I think that was actually a question I had, if I can ask of anyone on the serving committee. It seemed like in the most recent meetings, you guys were maybe doing some work outside of the meetings, and just curious with subcommittees and things that you're moving toward, what is your expectation of the time commitment? I don't think I have a barrier. I was just genuinely curious.
Our recent meetings have run from convene in September, and we meet once a month on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month at 6:30 at the library. And then our last meeting of that session, it goes September to November 4th will be, and then we take off December, January, we reconvene again in February. So it's really, in terms of, you referenced the subcommittees, so we have a few subcommittees, but we usually meet 1, 2, or 3 times. So that's about a 3-hour commitment. And then by the month is just the hour meeting and any preparation for the meeting. For instance, Steve's going to present this Wednesday on ways that we can engage our community. So obviously he has his prep time for that particular presentation, and we have questions for him, but it's not more than that.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for volunteering.
Thanks.
I do have 2 questions, and these, forgive me, might be a little outside of your wheelhouse, but it sounds like the first one you've answered. Have you been to programs at the library?
Yes. Yeah, a couple.
So what I follow libraries, not just our library, but the other libraries. Instagram is a wonderful thing. So other libraries offer a lot more programs than they do follow. So I think the library does a great job with kids at your age and up to a certain point, and then it drops off. And I understand, there's a lot of reasons for that. But my interest, or what I'd like to know is your interest, is how can we attract and create programs to follow teens, young adults, all through their life, so that the library doesn't, hey, my mom took me here, and then I dropped off, and then I had kids, and now, the library's great again. So to me, that's keeping that connection to that resource is key for me.
I would agree with you. I think the digitization of so much has reduced maybe the connection for a lot of teens and tweens. I have, nieces and nephews, and I'm not aware that they go to their public library in their towns. I would have to think about and really think about a suggestion for how to build that connection. And I'm not aware of all of the existing services that are provided for kids or frankly adults. I think there's opportunities for both of those things. I mean, I know there's the kind of competitive summer reading program, but again, that only reaches to a certain age level before kids lose interest or aren't motivated by those things. But yeah, I would imagine there's like you're saying, Instagram, but finding more of a social media platform, finding ways to offer, I don't know, like there's got to be something about competitive competitions, ways to interface with your friends, have a safe space to go out and on an evening, you know, when you're 12, it's hard to have a place to go to just have fun or see other kids your age outside of school. Just reading an article about how like kids have so little free time to just be and exist. And I think part of it is that there's not a lot of free, safe spaces for kids to do that anymore. And so I could see the library being a place for that, but I don't have a specific idea, but that's a really good question.
Thank you.
So the board does have 3 questions, and I think you've answered 2 of them, and I'm just going to ask, because I think you've touched on it too. Do you have any special experience or skills that will enhance your employment?
Yeah, so I sort of do 2 jobs and have done them my entire time at the nonprofit I've been with. One is, you know, policy writing, policy development. I think I spoke to that. The other is on business process analysis, system requirements gathering. So I think I could bring a unique perspective in terms of the technology side of you know, how we move toward a more digitalized kind of future for the library. I clearly have some thoughts about the website. but so I think that would be my value add. I could bring that side of it, you know, working across different departments, different hierarchies in 2 languages. I am bilingual, so I heard there's a plan to offer ESL. I feel like there's something there I could bring to the table as well, just around access to those types of resources.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any additional questions?
Does the board have any questions?
That's good information, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, so we will move on to our second person, Anne.
She pronounces it El Said.
El Said.
Yep.
Okay.
There she is. Welcome, Ann. You can come right up to the podium. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Great. I'm going to start again, Steve, if you don't mind, starting us off with questions.
Okay. I'll start with the same question. What made you interested in joining this?
Well, I have a long history of, you know, being involved with the library from growing up. You know, we didn't have computers and that kind of thing. I lived very close to a library, and I was a frequent visitor from the time I could go there on my own, but also my family supported that. And I've supported, I've lived in several towns in Massachusetts, and I've supported my children as they grew up and coming of age, you know, reading to them at night, but then reinforcing that with the library. Because I think it's the first time they get a card, a membership. And I think it's important. I feel like the library has a central part in any town, and we're lucky to have free libraries across the country. And I do believe in the system that everybody has access, everybody in town, and even from other towns, people have access to Wi-Fi, they have access to computers, but they have access to books and all the resources of the library, which I've found to be pretty enormous. They can really be very helpful. And I did work in a library briefly in college, so I kind of, you know, have a little tiny bit of experience working in them. But I just think the public library system is rather major to a community.
Erica?
Now you do.
What do you see is particularly your role on the library board? Like, what would you see as being things you want to contribute?
Well, you know, I worked in the public school systems for a long time. You know, nursing probably doesn't always translate to, you know, libraries, but luckily the last few years I was in the Swanson Road school. I was next to the library, and we didn't have a librarian there. So I had the advantage of seeing how many parents were willing to dedicate their time to the library so the children had a resource, and they would be there when the children were going through and picking books. And, you know, it was impressive to see. I think the high school has a librarian resource, but the elementary schools haven't. And I, as a town member, I understand why. And but it was really great to see that. So I have that sort of history, and just experience with my own family.
Matt?
Sort of answered the question that I normally would ask, but in the last, let's say 5 years, I don't know how much time you may have spent in the library, but what would your experience have been in the library during these last few years?
So I'll be honest, I had a very sick adult child in my home for the last 3 years who passed away, and COVID. So I use the library for, right now, as a resource for my book club, which I'm part of. And also, I do take advantage of the online resources for the library. But I haven't spent, I'll be honest, the last 5 years, he was sick and I didn't really spend a lot of time. I was going to New York to see him and care for him, and then when he moved home, I was caring for him here.
Well, even with some of the online resources, and the things, well, somebody else had asked a question before about what you might want to see differently in the library, but maybe that's a tough question to answer with the limited access over the last few years.
Well, it's not that I didn't go in, but I can't say I spent hours. I would go in when I wanted to see a newspaper or a local piece of information I didn't get at home. I think I understand that there's going to be a new building built for the library. Is that correct? All the hope is, I was hoping it was passed. I am a town meeting member, newly elected to that. So I guess I hope, that we can keep what's important and add. I couldn't help but overhear the other interview, and I think it is important. I did look through the different events for teenagers, and I know it's a hard group to get involved, but we do have the high school nearby, and kids do like to volunteer. If they have a role to play, I think that would be important. I've seen some libraries, and maybe Auburn has had this, I don't know, have a chess club, something that appeals to certain kinds of kids, and maybe other things like when students go forward to go to different kind of future schooling, having tutoring at the at the library, so that, maybe in the group sense that they can have a place to start doing something like that, but also have a bond with other students, because they don't see everybody in their classes. That's, it's kind of meeting new people, just like we need to do that sometimes by broadening our experience.
Yeah. Thank you. How do you see the role of the Board of Trustees with regard to the library or the library director, or what would you like to see the Board of Trustees?
Well, I did look up online what the mandate for a Board of Trustee in the libraries, and there was a law. I was surprised. I'm not totally surprised, but it was short and sweet, and just saying there's responsibility for finances and all the property of the library, which, is the buildings and the books, obviously, and computers and all that. So I presume I have been a member of a trustee board a long time ago. So I know it's both meant to be helpful and what other needs are of actually director of the library, and also supportive to their role and able to give advice about what their plannings are. And I have to say, I read the strategic plan, and it was very impressive, and I know it runs out in 25, so I presume that will be kind of re-upping, and not right away, but soon. But it was impressive, to have that all situated in such a nice way. So I would guess that might be part of what the board might be involved in again. Never renewal of that, or just a fine tuning for the next 5 years.
Thank you for that. And I will say Matt Toth and Suzette Dowd were very instrumental in driving the strategic plan. So thank you for those compliments. I always ask questions about inclusion. I'm interested in everyone, and I'm interested in how we can increase our knowledge about how to be more sensitive to diverse populations within Auburn, all different populations. Do you have any ideas of how we or suggestions of how we could get more input to ensure that what we have at the library meets the needs and the interests of all the age groups? And of course, I'm referring to teenagers as well. Like, what can we do differently to engage?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I did see where the library, I think it was the last meeting, mentioned that they had given books to AYFS to use for the community of people that moved into the hotels here for a living situation, and I think that's wonderful. I think interacting with some of the places where the students do spend after school time. I mean, there are clubs after school, there's no more, when I was growing up, late buses, as some of you might remember. And that's a challenge, I think, for our town, but I think there are places where kids do engage after school starting, pretty early on, 3rd, 4th, and 5th for sure. That's where I was working. There was STEM programs and that kind of thing. If there's a way to interact with them, and a lot of students go to AYFS after school up to a certain age. I think the high school, I think it's probably good to reach out to the schools. I'm sure it already happens, but to really kind of see what their needs are and what kind of diversity there is there, because I think Auburn has gotten more and more diverse as time's gone by. Well, I've lived here anyway. Thank you.
So I'm going to start questions off with Select Board. First, just let me thank you for agreeing to volunteer your time on behalf of the town. It's greatly appreciated. Our board policy requires us to ask the same questions of both candidates, so it's not that I haven't been listening to you. It's just what we're required to do. But based on your experience with the library, whatever experience you have, what are some of the programs that you think they do very well? And then what are some of the programs or new programs that you think they need to improve on?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed, when our children were little, some of the opportunities for going to the variety of museums, local and further away, the museums and just events around the area. That was helpful, and it was, exposure to new places and close by places you could go back to. I think as I visited the library and I see those great cards right in front of the library checkout, that there's a lot going on that for the little children, for adults. And I think that's a wonderful way to kind of say, we're here, we want to engage you. A lot of things happen right at the library. So it's kind of bringing people in. And I think that's also a very smart and as somebody who visits the library, I think that was great. I tried to get to some of those things. I wasn't always successful because they filled up. But I think that's great. I love all the posters out front that tells you what's going on in the community and beyond. Yeah, that engagement piece, with kids online so much, I think it really serves to kind of find ways to bring kids in and to really have the resource at the library, even if it's, anything that you can hold there. Like I had mentioned chess clubs, but I'm sure there's other clubs that some students would really be interested in. Might not admit it, but, if they had friends going, then you'd be successful.
Thank you.
My only question is, do you have any time constraints that would affect your attendance at the scheduled meetings or any additional meetings?
No, I'm retired and I'm not currently working. I am possibly, but I don't think I'd be working in the evenings. I did see most of the meetings are in the evenings on Wednesdays, I mean. So I don't currently have any time constraints.
Thank you.
Thank you for your willingness to volunteer.
Well, I would ask the questions, but you kind of already answered the question, so rather than make you repeat yourself, I'm just going to say thank you. And if you want a crunch bar, those for you too, Lindsay.
So we do have, we do have some specific questions, and I think you answered it already, but what is your interest in serving? So primarily just my, history and really sense that the libraries are vital and a wanting to give back to the community. I've been involved in the community as
school nurse. So having retired from that, I just think it's a nice way to give back to some place that I really have an appreciation for. Not that I, don't, haven't, I have worked in nursing and in other kind of fields, but I feel like the library and reading is so very important to all our success. And I feel like the more you can get our children reading successfully, and I think the library is a big part of that, is important.
And my second question is, do you have any special experience or skills that will enhance your appointment?
So that's a hard one, because I'm not technology. I heard our other candidate, I'm worked with computers as a school nurse, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a particular strength. I was an English major. I've worked, like I mentioned, as on a board of trustees at one point. I have worked as a school nurse leader. I've worked with contract negotiations with the school department for that kinds of things. So I'm aware of what happens within a library system in that way somewhat. And I've worked a lot with a variety of people, parents, administrators, students. So I think that would be a plus, I guess, working with different people on the board and within the library system.
I believe that is all the questions we have. Does anybody have additional questions? Do you have any questions for us?
I heard, the hours. I guess I wonder how the library board of trustees envisions the next year or two in terms of what they might be looking to do, if there's any new things that haven't been mentioned. I've only listened to a couple meetings. I won't say I've went back 5 years or anything, but.
I'm going to defer to the board on that. Does anybody want to share what our vision is in terms of moving forward? Steve, your eyes lit up, so I wonder if you have something that you would like to share.
I mean, one of the basic mandates of the board is to be sort of the nexus between the community and the library, to promote the library to the community and to be a conduit for the community's views on what the library should be. And that's where I think that we should be going with some of the board work, is to bring the community closer to the library, and vice versa.
Do you work with I'm sure you've talked to other library systems to find out, we must all have the same challenges in every town about that kind of thing, but are there more successful towns, or have you visited school libraries to see what they're doing?
Some of us have.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot to learn from the way that other libraries run themselves, and bring those lessons back to
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you.
Matt, did you want to add?
No, I think that's perfectly said.
Yeah. And I think just to illuminate Steve's point, I think it's really, you said something that was very important to me when you said, go out to where the teens are and find out where they are and engage them. We're very interested in that. We're also interested in social network platforms, social media platforms. You mentioned Instagram. There's Facebook. There's so many ways that we need to be creative, especially with teenagers, to engage them. And you mentioned that you committed a great deal of time to your adult child. So you probably would be somebody would be very interested in finding out what your need set was at that time and at this time. So when we say we really mean we want to hear from the entire, all of our patrons and what they want to see, and then we want to be supportive to that.
Thank you so much for answering all of our questions. If you just want to, you don't have to stand, you can have a seat if you'd like. So do we have a nomination?
So I'll be honest with you. This is an abundance of riches. Yeah. I wish we could appoint both of you. Unfortunately, that would require a charter change, and I don't think that's going to happen tonight. However, really, really good candidates. For me, I think, I would nominate Lindsay Baker for the position.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate Yanel Saeed for the position.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second for discussion because I actually wanted to ask both boards if we could wait to make an appointment because I know I can't make an informed decision because I honestly think you both bring a tremendous need to the community and I don't want to, usually it's a one and done because we don't usually have two, well, that's not true. We've had excellent candidates, but sometimes we only have one, so it's easier. But I would ask the committee, both committees, if we could wait and reconvene on November 13th. I know that's an imposition with everything, but that's where I'm at.
I'm going to defer to the board, as I always do.
I agree that it's been a pleasure to listen to both of these candidates tonight. I think I can make some distinction between the two and what they might be able to bring. And the only I wouldn't mind waiting till the 13th, except we have a meeting this Wednesday, and then we don't have another meeting until February. We could always invite a person to be on a subcommittee, between that time, but that's the only reason that I would hope that maybe we could make a decision tonight. But I think both bring very interesting backgrounds to this. And I like the fact that Ann was involved in the school system and would understand a lot about this community as well. Lindsay's interesting background in process and in policy is a pretty strong strength for me. In trying to make a contrast between the two candidates. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
I'd like to hear from the board, but does anybody have a preference? Because I will support the decision of the board. But we could vote tonight, but I would respect if people wanted to put off until the 13th.
Well, I share both boards' view that we have two excellent candidates here. And they both bring different kinds of skills and different kinds of experience. And so it really comes back, for me, it comes back to what do we as a board of trustees need more in terms of experience? One of the things I can say in favor of Lindsay is that she just by where she is in her life journey, she brings in a younger view than any of us on the board. And that to me is an important element, especially since we've been talking a lot about youth and adolescents and how to get them into the library. Some of us have not been youth or adolescent for quite a while. So it would help to have someone closer to that cohort. Yeah. So, but at the same time, and now I'm going to say that Ms. El Said has, has a wealth of experience as a school nurse. I work in public health. When she said that pricked my ears up. Like, wouldn't it be great to have some kind of connection between the library and public health? And that intrigues me. So that's my view on it.
Erica?
All the same things that people have said. I think I have kind of a leaning toward Lindsay only because of thinking about how the library is presented to the community in terms of things regarding the website, access to information, which is not at all to negate Ann's really extensive experience and I think important viewpoints in relation to the centrality of the library, what the library does. The idea is to reach out to the schools and have it that direction as opposed to just schools toward the library. And so just thinking about those different approaches to both being very committed to having a robust library resource for all members of our community. On one hand, I think, I can understand waiting and mulling over it longer. At the same time, too, then we're not meeting till February. And so, I can vote tonight. I will defer to my other board members, though.
Okay, well, as everyone said, and as is very clear, both candidates are very, very strong candidates and both bring extensive skill sets, which fortunately for us do not overlap, and the respect that it would be crazy making to make that decision if y'all did. That said, I think looking at where the Board of Trustees wants to go with regard to engaging the community more, finding ways to engage different age groups, finding different platforms for people to find our information, contact us, let us know what they're thinking so that we can adequately represent them. I would definitely lean in one direction, so I am prepared to vote today. If everybody else is prepared to vote today, that said, I like you guys and I can see you again in November.
If we were to move ahead and vote, would that in any way offend the board? Because that's something that's very important to us, to have positive relationships. So again, I'm going to start with Steve. We will vote tonight. So would you be kind enough to cast the first vote?
I would cast a vote for Lindsay.
Okay. Erica?
I would cast my vote for Lindsay.
Vera?
I would cast my vote for Lindsay.
Matt?
I would cast my vote for Lindsay.
Yeah, and I will support the team, as I always do. So we vote for Lindsay.
Okay.
But thank you both, and you were wonderful.
we get a vote too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry.
I didn't know that you were.
That's okay, yes. So I'm going to go through my board as well. Mr. Corain?
I'm casting my vote for Lindsay.
Ms. Kavanaugh?
Ian Al-Said.
Mr. Carpenter? Mr. Chambers, I'm sorry.
What's up with that?
I don't know, I can't. Mr. Chambers, okay. Mr. Carpenter,
I will throw a vote to Ann El-Said.
all right, and I will vote for Lindsay as well. I want to thank you both for coming out and going through the interview process. You are both really incredible candidates, and I hope that if you are still interested in serving on another board, you will apply for that as well. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Lindsay. Okay, so you just need to close out your meeting.
Okay, can I have a motion for us to close our portion of the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
There it
Lindsay?
is. Yeah. Can we catch you for a minute? Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
So much.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion, we go into recess for like 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to move along the agenda tonight. We do not have any public comments. We have no presentations or public hearings. We do not have any communications. We do have in the select board general items, gift acceptances. There should be 3 in the packet, totaling $705 for the fire department.
I'll make a motion to accept with gratitude a donation from the Auburn Firefighters Association in the amount of $400 from Deanna White. Speaking of schools, a former guidance counselor, $300. And from Shaw's, $5, all going to the fire rescue department.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair is a yes as well. There is the town manager items. The fire department has asked that we hold on item A, so we are going to move to item B, the board's budget priorities.
So, Madam Chair, thank you. This agenda item was on at the last meeting. We did get some feedback from the board, but I suggested, due to the absence of Mr. Corain, and certainly he did make his items known in the email to me and to the board on October 22nd. Those will be taken into consideration, but I didn't know whether the board had any other items they wanted us to focus on for the upcoming budget. Certainly, I wanted to receive that guidance in advance. This is the time of year we normally start putting together the elements of the FY25 budget. We typically make a presentation based on estimates to the Finance Committee in mid-November. So we're probably a couple of weeks away from preparing and presenting the first draft of the FY25 budget. So if the board has any other concerns, we'd like to hear from you now, so we can hopefully build that into our early estimates.
Do board members have any other comments? Certainly, please go ahead.
I do. So a big one for me is Parks and Cemetery. If you can look at that department, especially for staffing. I have gotten periodically concerns about, you know, the road debris on the road, meaning, you know, plant matter is crowding out sidewalks. The cemetery, you know, needs a little special attention, not just at certain times of the year where they do a phenomenal job. So I know the DEPW director mentioned that for whatever reason, we're not getting that summer help. So we definitely need to find some way to maintain these assets and make sure that our walkable streets remain walkable. So that's really my only concern that I can share at this time.
So I know we talked about ways we could enhance the website without spending money. I don't know if the department has a need for any upgrades that they might want to look at to help support that. Again, I know we had a bunch of what we call low or no cost ones, but just want to get that into consideration. And then when Mr. Carpenter said staffing, I know we talked about going out and making sure that the roles and the pay scales were all aligned. I don't know if we need an outside resource and if that's taken into consideration. But just, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but anytime a vacancy comes open, I'd like to be able to have real-time assessment of the work, whether it's a shift in the work that was getting done, and if other responsibilities can be picked up for promotional opportunities for other or existing staff members rather than just filling the open role. So I don't know if outside resources are needed for that, but I would like that to be taken into account if you needed it.
Okay.
Go ahead, yes.
Okay, two things. I'd like to see roadway repair accounts increased to help. I mean, we've heard about how the cost for materials has all gone up. So it'd be good to see those accounts increased so we can really still meet the needs. Also, it's good for us to have a realistic snow and ice budget so we don't have to do those transfers later in the year. So increase those snow and ice. I believe we cut that down when we did some COVID cuts. Thank you.
So I'm just going to officially put mine on the record. That way, I know I sent them in via email when I was not going to be at the meeting last time, but just for the record, the first priority I have is no reduction in the services, core services that are currently provided by the police, fire, schools, library, and the town clerk as part of the operating budget. The second priority that I have is I'd like us to look at the library and make sure that we have adequate staffing levels to provide all the programs. As the Board of Trustees has noted at several of their meetings, a sharp decline in the employee level over the last several years. That's resulted in increase in overtime budgets as a result. The third is that I would like to see us provide support to our small businesses in the town. Other communities through ARPA money or other funding sources have created small business grant programs that provide, a grant of up to $10,000. I'm just putting numbers out here. Of course, details will be worked up by the administration over 3 years to support small businesses as they open up in town, encourage them to stay in town. It's well known in the business world that it's an average of 5 years before any small business becomes profitable. So I think this is a way for the town to invest in those small businesses that are investing in the town. Also, I'd like to see us implement a policy with mandated regular annual funding levels for both the OPEB fund as well as the town stabilization fund to ensure that we are future planning against those potential cliffs. And finally, the last is that I'd like us to see, and I know town meeting took steps to do this, a regular annual CIP line item for sidewalk construction and pedestrian safety. That is not part of the roadway reconstruction. So roadway reconstruction, in my mind, should be dealing with existing sidewalks as well. So this fund should go towards creating new sidewalks so that we can finally implement our longstanding complete streets policy to create a walkable community.
Okay, great.
Good. Thank you very much.
So we have no table items, no member items, and no minutes to approve. We would just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair, yes, as well.